All right, I've got top of the hour on the West Coast here at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. on the East Coast, and a good morning to everybody. Welcome to anybody joining us internationally. Good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to actually a continuation of our summer boot camp, except now we're into the fall and we're getting ready for the year 2020. So we have a series. We're going to be doing 20 of them scattered throughout this fall, winter, and early into next year. 20 webinars for 2020, and this is week one. Today's topic is annual reports that wow. Want to welcome you all joining us today. I've got a quick shout out to a few of my friends that I've worked with over the years with emergency reporting, our customers, Chief Stockley out in Buckeye, Arizona, my brother Bo Hagar in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I see also Todd Russell out in Alaska, and I see some very familiar names, and I don't remember your department, but Sean Sims is with us. He's been with us through the summer boot camp as well, as have many of you. So welcome back. We're going to get into this annual reports webinar today, right out of the gate. So again, our objective today, we'll cover it. Do a quick background for emergency reporting, because those of you, I know many of you are customers, but we have opened this up to those considering joining the emergency reporting family. So there may be some of you that are new to emergency reporting, so I do a quick overview about who we are, quick overview about our system features, and then we'll get into what you all came here for today. That's me. I'm a business development analyst with emergency reporting. Been using the system since 2004. Joined emergency reporting in 2011 as a regional Department of Defense and then an international trainer, and became a business development analyst in 2018. So here's our objective. I like to keep them short and sweet. So how can I produce a powerful annual report using tools found in emergency reporting? And so today it's not going to be using whatever program, Adobe Illustrator, Word, that you would use to create the report, but we're going to see how we can mine data that's already in your system, or those of you thinking of coming to emergency reporting could be in your system, to generate an annual report. Okay, those of you new to us, we currently serve over 480,000 people within our system with 165 unique users. We're pushing 6,800 departments worldwide. We release product updates, features, bug fixes every 2 weeks, sometimes even sooner than that. I have a high reliability and uptime. So basically what it comes down to, if we meet the 4 nines out of 525,600 minutes a year, we're up 525,547 in 44 hundredths of a minute. So very, very reliable system. If I were to drop a zero and we were up 99.9% of the time, that would equate to about 52 minutes in the entire year. Okay, we have US-based support in Bellingham, Washington, 24/7 for Priority 1 tickets. And what we call Priority 1 is if the CAD's down, system's down, and we had one the other night. Let me run. Some of you may have encountered it. So our system has some automated processes that if it catches issues, it goes into a fail-safe or protection mode. And what happened was, it reverted to an old certificate. And so many of you, if you logged in, you got a certificate warning that this could be an imposter website and so forth. And our team, we had that fixed. And it wasn't down, the system, it was a concern that if you tried to log in, or am I truly logging into emergency reporting? And when you get that warning, I kind of freak out, like, okay, am I on the right website? And so our team came in after hours, got that fixed within minutes, and everybody was back up. Most of you probably didn't even realize it happened because we fixed it so fast. But those of you that did let us know, we were grateful for that, and that allowed us to get it fixed very quickly. So that would be an example of a Priority 1. We strongly support agency compliance with NFPA 1300, 1500, 1700, or 1710, and many, many other NFPA standards that require good documentation, records and reports, and helping you manage the various standards programs that are in your department. We have enterprise contracts with the United States Marine Corps, Army, and Boeing, all of their sites throughout the United States, and then OCONUS outside the continental United States for Marines and Army. So that's just a little bit about us. It's very much in a nutshell of who we are and what we do. Our 4 pillars are compliance, operations, relationships, and data. My specialty is in the relationships here, and then helping you with compliance, your overall department operations. And when we say compliance, we mean the different standards that you adhere to, accreditation, and so forth. And then, of course, really at the foundation is all managing and being able to manage your data. We have 16 modules. And I'll let you take a look at the myriad features that we have there, over 600 reports in the system with more to come, as well as a business intelligence tool coming in 2020. Okay, so we're going to talk about some best practices. I've got some examples of some really, really good annual reports from a combination department, a couple career departments, and the United States Marine Corps. So I want to show you what they're doing, and every one of them is doing it with data from our system. What I want you to take a look at is in your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a section called Handouts. There are 5 handouts there. Download them, don't open them and read them right now, but there are 5 handouts. I'm going to summarize them very quickly. One is an example of Lower Merion's annual report from 2018. They're a combination department in Pennsylvania. I've got a job aid, which is kind of just scratching the surface on reports in our system that will help you produce a really high quality annual report. And I'm going to be going over quite a bit in the presentation today. We have an annual report guide template that you could use to get you started if you're doing an annual report. We've got instructions on how to do that. And just a PowerPoint, really short PowerPoint PDF of who emergency reporting is for those of you new to us. So check those out, download them, they're there for you to use. And before we press on, you probably know me already. I've got some poll questions for you. So this one, we're kind of curious. How many of you do produce an annual report? So multitaskers, take a look up at your screen and let's see what we got. And I'm betting most of you probably do. Some of you do not. Those of you that do can maybe find some tips to enhance yours for next year. All right, going to close the poll. So take a look up if you're not. 3, 2, 1, and here's the results. Okay, so this is most everybody voting. Okay, interesting. So not quite 50-50. So definitely a majority, almost 60% of you do, roughly 40% of you don't. So I'm hoping today everybody gets something out of it. Those that do can enhance theirs. Those that don't can get some great best practices examples and produce a really great annual report. Awesome. Couple more, and then we'll press on. And I always like to know, what type of agency do you guys work for? Career, volunteer, combo, or DoD or federal? All right, gonna close it shortly. On 3, 2, last chance, 1. All right. Heavier career today. Usually we got a lot of volunteer and combo, so excellent. No federal or DoD representation today. That's okay. Last question. Are you currently an ER customer, or are you interested in emergency reporting? 3, 2, 1. Okay, gonna close it. All right, we've got all customers today. All right, so if you know somebody in your area that's not ER, spread the word. We'd love to get them into the emergency reporting family. All right, guys, thanks for indulging me on those 3 poll questions. That helps us a lot as far as gearing our content and knowing who's joining us today, so I sure appreciate that. All right, so you got those handouts, and we're gonna jump right in. So the first thing I wanna show you is this. We've got a job aid. and that's one of your handouts. All right, so this is, again, scratching the surface, but what I put together, and it's been refined, I did it a couple years ago for a virtual Thursday that we did, and I revamped it a little bit for today's webinar, and there's actually 1 or 2 reports that I want to show you that's not on this list that you can pencil in, and I'll make an update to this document. But I broken it down by module, the document ID, report title, along with some comments, so it'll help guide you. You know, it's kind of hard to wade through over 600 reports in the system. And so I want you to just kind of take a look, and you may have some that you use. So if you have one that's not listed here that has helped you with your annual report, please send it my way or put it in the questions, and I'll add that to this, especially if it's been helpful. And considering, you know, about 60% of you that joined us today do an annual report, you may have something that you've discovered that I've missed, so send it my way. So we're going to go through, I'm not going to go through, we could spend a few hours going through each of these reports. I'm just going to kind of cherry pick some of the best ones and then answer any questions that you have. Okay, so feel free to look at that document, put it on a second screen or split screen if you'd like, and we're going to be going through that here shortly. But one of the questions that we need to start off with, and I always like to address this when I'm either teaching or when I was, you know, a captain and a battalion chief, is if I can address the concerns from members of my organization as to why we're doing something. Why are we changing to this air pack? Why are we purchasing this truck? Why do we do an annual report? So I found a couple articles on some websites that maybe are more geared towards the business world, but frankly, we're in the business of taking care of Mrs. Smith. So we have budgets. And so here's one, and I'll put this in the chat, that I thought was really well written. And I'm just going to hit the bullets here that she's put together. And I'll send you that link. It's on its way to you. So it's a powerful tool, but what's the purpose, right? You've got to communicate and be transparent about what you're doing as an organization to the community. And they always like the term stakeholders and shareholders. So who are the stakeholders and shareholders? I would argue anybody that you touch, your employees, the customers that you serve, your fire boards, city councils, town councils, okay? People that could become employees, okay? Colleagues and competitors for sure. And if you think you don't have competitors, we know that there's a lot of private companies out there and they compete just like we compete with our neighbors in the different departments near our jurisdiction. Makes us all better in a lot of ways. And then of course the general public. If you did a Google search for fire department annual reports, you will have pages and pages of posted annual reports from municipalities large and small. But we want to be able to share your mission, build trust in your business practices, and even though we don't think of ourselves as a business, we are in a lot of ways because part of annual reports include financials. I like these. Introducing your leadership and other team members. The annual reports that I always like to see, especially for agencies, is that they show their personnel, they celebrate their people, showcase the company or department culture, your successes, and laying the groundwork for your future. I'm not going to go and read this. You guys can read it with the link that I've sent you and be able to kind of just get an example from the business world. What's the purpose? Again, why it should be a piece of master storytelling, because it really is telling your story. And it's going to be electronic, so you can publish it to a website and be able to share your story with the community and anyone who might be looking to even move to your community. What they want to know, what kind of, if it's important to them, their fire department and the response for medical care, they might want to know how good is your fire department, and this is your chance to tell them. Financial information is part of it. This is another one I'll send you. Again, this is towards small businesses, but I liken this to small fire departments. Okay, and again, it's going to reiterate some of the things that previous article mentioned, but I like this, highlighting achievements. You know, have you reached your goals? Did you improve your ISO score? Are you going for accreditation for the first time and you did it? Or you're going for reaccreditation, and these are things that we need to do. All of that can be told in your annual report. All right, I'm going to close these out. You've got the links. All right, and before we get into the system, let's look at some examples so we can kind of paint a picture of what we might want to do in the future. So The first one I want to go to is right here. This is Thomasville, Georgia. My friend Greg Owens, Battalion Chief out there, he's put this together. So what I want to do is we're going to view this. I hope everyone can see it. And so we've got this is their 4-year report. This is an example of something above and beyond just an annual report, but what's contained herein is applicable to some of the annual reports I'm going to show you next. Okay, and they have done a masterful job of improving the number of fires they have in their community through community risk reduction. And we're going to be celebrating that actually next Thursday in a Center for Public Safety webinar that we're going to be presenting on behalf of CPSC. And I should say CPSE because I think they prefer that now. So let me show you here. And so we've got a summary, but again, don't worry about reading all of the details, but they're talking about their community risk assessment and their standards of cover in here. So it's a 4-year report, but don't forget in yours to have a high quality, easy to use table of contents. Always consider your audience. Don't assume they know the fire service as deeply as we do. Okay, yes, there's going to be fire personnel from around the country within your organization that know all the nuances and the jargon and what we do in the fire service day in and day out, but don't assume everybody understands all of that. You're going to have to spell it out. Okay, and so they do that. All right, they've got an executive summary. They include their mission and vision statements. And I hope, we did a webinar once, or a blog article, excuse me, on do you live your mission statement and vision? A lot of times it's a piece of paper on the wall. I've been to some organizations, one in particular, Chief Bob Kuntz, he's currently at Fort Campbell. This is part of his everyday. It drives his organization because it's not just something that you think about or put it on slap on the side of a truck, you live it. And so that's always something that I think is part of this, that if I'm reading an annual report and I've encountered a company, a department, and I see their mission, and I can say to myself, are they really fulfilling it? Okay. And then an org chart and so forth. So again, this is just one example that encompasses 4 years, and it's quite detailed. This was pulled directly from emergency reporting, this table here on their apparatus inventory. Okay, the standards that they follow. Again, each, just as one example, they put in a lot of history. Okay, and then when we get into responses, you guys probably recognize these. This is report 553 right here. All right, and so will our reports be a copy and paste exactly into your annual report? Maybe some of the charts, but you may want to modify its visuals in Excel and so forth. But this is exact data that's coming from Thomasville's account in Georgia. Okay, let's take a look at another one. This is the Township of Lower Merion. They're a volunteer department, or combination, excuse me. Chief Charles McGarvey out there is a friend of mine, does a fantastic job with his group. Okay. Again, a little plug for recruiting, nothing wrong with that. Okay. You've got a table of contents. I like this, they've got a dedication. So again, maybe an honoring of anyone you lost throughout the year, leadership within the organization, little touches like this. So I'm going to scroll down. So sorry about the scrolling really fast here. You've got a letter from the chief officer, org chart of the leadership team with pictures, their creed. All right, so I'm going to scroll down. So pardon the fast scrolling. I want to show you. This is all directly from emergency reporting, your loss reports. All right, and I'm going to show you these in the system where to find all of this, okay, and how to be able to tell your story. Mapping, incident summaries, and they go into much more detail on their incidents, but a breakdown of their calls, and they go historical. And again, I'm showing you these just to give you some ideas. Our heat source report directly from emergency reporting. And again, remember I said, don't assume people know, well, what's a heat source? You know, there's a definition for it, okay? And so this helps the lay reader to understand, okay, that's what this means. So they've got a lot of fires that the heat source was due to operating equipment. You may not need to go that granular, but they've got ignition details. And remember, they're focused heavily on fire protection as opposed to a lot of EMS, but you'll see that they run a lot of EMS calls. You want it to be visually interesting, so it captures the reader's attention. We're bombarded today with social media. We're bombarded with so many visuals that something that's a boring text-only document. Now, I'm a firefighter, retired anyway, and so we like pictures. We like, things to tell the story, and so an annual report's a great opportunity to do that. I'm going to show you this report in our system, incidents by alarm hour, so that the community can see when they're running the most calls. Okay, and that one I downloaded, so I'll let you look at that as an example, but everything that you see here, especially the data compiling, is directly from emergency reporting. All right, this is Yakima Fire Department, longtime customer, a career department. Again, layouts are going to be very similar. You've got your table of contents, message from the chief, and then so forth and so on. And I want to show you, again, I apologize for the scrolling. This is a big one, inspections. We've got that report. So a lot of this you can compile fairly quickly. And as long as the data going in is good, and you've heard me say this, good stuff in gives you good stuff out. As long as you've got your personnel putting good data in, you're not going to be scrambling to produce this report and worry about the quality of the data. Okay, yeah, that came from the system. They just changed it up so it looks, more in their format, okay, as opposed to directly copying and pasting the table. Their standards of cover, and if they met it, all right. And here's another thing. So first arriving engine at fire. So they met it 47% of the time. Some might think, oh, that's a terrible number, but they're transparent, all right? And who knows, maybe last year was 40% and this year's, 50-some%. You can show progress, The community doesn't care that you're 100%, they care that you're trying, okay? All right, last one is a biggie. This is United States Marine Corps. That's Chief Mike Pritchard there. And let me bring this out. Okay, this is encompassing the entire fire and emergency services for the Marine Corps. What I call the production value here is very high, but remember, there are generals and civilian leaderships high up in the Department of Defense that's reading this. Chief Pritchard has to explain to them what they're doing with the taxpayers' money and how they're serving those that serve, essentially. And you can see the table of contents is very straightforward, but he's got many bases to deal with, okay? But what I want to show you the visual here. This blows me away. Just in training hours, I don't have to read a table, okay? I've got cool icons with a high-level category of what we trained on, all right? In the entire Marine Corps, they've done 267,475 hours of training. How does it break down? Right here. Okay, but remember the audience, okay? We're not necessarily having data analysts read this. We're not necessarily having firefighters read this. We have to be able to put ourselves in the shoes of their audience. And that's pretty wide here, so you've got to keep it. Basic's not the right word because this is not a basic report, but you've got to keep the explanation to where they can understand it and not wonder. Like they might wonder what's NIMS. He probably explains that somewhere in here. And then it's broken down by the different installations. You've got comments from the chiefs. But again, from a production quality is extremely high. I can see key numbers at a glance. And then at the end of the day, after we talk about all the installations, and I'm sorry, I know the blurring scrolling is horrible. Their awards, each base, firefighters of the year, their accreditation process, who's in process, who's reaccredited, who's going for it for the first time. And then we'll get into at the end, we get into the data. So to me, this is a example of a beautiful grid for they pull the data from our system and then they compile it here in an easy to read format. And you've got total incidents reported. We had a little dip. Now we're back up on the upswing starting from 2016 to 2018. And then of course the breakdown per base. So on the front end here, I just wanted to show you all the various examples, and they're all very high quality. We've got them from the Marine Corps to Thomasville, Georgia, in a 4-year report that includes their standards of cover. We've got Lower Merion in Pennsylvania, a combination department, little smaller agency. And we've got Yakima Fire, a career department in Washington State. All of them are different, but all of them tell and celebrate their department stories. And just because you're not 100% on something or perfect, that doesn't mean it's worth celebrating, or at least demonstrating, hey, we need to improve, and we acknowledge that. Your stakeholders, that catchphrase is who's going to be reading this? All right, the other handout we have here that I want to show you before we jump into the system and finding all of these reports is telling your agency story with a compelling annual report. This is a little bit about what I'm going to go over, and that is one of your handouts. It kind of walks you through a high level things that I've already mentioned. Okay, what to focus on, example of something we put together, and yes, we totally grabbed that example from the Marine Corps because it was just that good. Okay, and then we have an example of one in a Word document that you can modify as you see fit. Okay, and that's in the attachment as well. All right, so what I want to do next, and I'm going to pause quickly for any questions or anything that you guys might want to add. Okay, no questions so far. All right, so if you were to look at your handout, that is the job aid. I'm going to go into a few of these reports and show you how the data that you're putting in can help you create that annual report down the road. So the first one, and here's the document I'm using, just so you guys can see it. Is this one here, the job aid. And the first one I'm going to look at is report number 906. This is hours spent per activity code for date range. Those of you that are kind of new to our reports, whenever you see the word for, and this isn't 100% throughout the system, there are some reports that don't have this preposition in it, and it still has filters. But generally speaking, whenever you see the word for, that means a report has a filter. So if you have a long-winded report title with a lot of fours in it, you want to click on it just to see what it does, because that means there's a lot of multi-pickers or pickers in that report to help you refine the data that you're pulling from the system. So the first one I want to tackle here is report 906. And in the reports module, you can search by keyword, report ID. So if you know the number, you can just enter the report number, and that report will load. The higher the report number, the newer the report. So when you see reports now that we're in the 1700s, those are our newest reports. Generally speaking, those are meeting a new standard, and they're going to be a much more robust report to give you more filters, and the layout's even better. So these lower numbers were back in the early 2000s. There have been some modifications to them over the years for sure, but keep in mind that the higher the number, the newer the report, and usually the more powerful the tools within the report under the parameters. So let's take a look for 2000. I'm going to run this for 2018. What this report is going to deliver for me, and I'm capturing the full 24 hours here. Don't freak out that this says 2300. This just means it goes through the entire 11 p.m. hour through midnight. Okay, so we'll let it process, and you will see a high-level report in the event that you want to demonstrate to your community hours spent on the different activity codes. Now, one thing I want to mention is that there are 6 things in emergency reporting that automatically populate the daily log from which this is pulling from. You don't even have to go in and manually enter it. You've got incidents. So when you complete an incident, it will automatically populate in the daily log. A completed maintenance request above and beyond just rig checks or truck checks. A rig check or truck check will automatically populate. A completed inspection will automatically populate. Completed training will automatically populate. And a completed event will automatically populate. But while that wonderful report is loading, I'm on our staging site, so it's going to run slower. But in administration, we're going to go to the daily log activity code list. The reason I mention this is for that report to be as powerful as it can be, you've got to build your activity code lists here effectively. And this is an example of a really good list. And I love how they've organized it. So this question you ask yourself on the daily log list is, what do I want to measure? What do I want to measure and be able to tell my story that the crews do, the administrative staff do, the prevention staff does, day in and day out. So you build your list here, and then the other key takeaway is right here under default activity codes. Make sure these three have been traditional and have been in our system a while. We have now added a unique activity code for completed events and for rig checks. If you leave these blank, they will not auto-populate into the daily log. So you'll want to create a unique high-level activity code for events and one for rig checks specific, and then it will auto-populate. It makes that report much, much better that we're going to hopefully has completed running here. Uh-oh, that's not good. So I may have to pare this down. It's only because we're doing a webinar. I may have to go into their live account. Let's just try it real quick. We'll just go back a month, see if it'll run for 1 month. Actually, no, I got to go further back. January. Okay, we'll let that run back here real quick. And then remember I said there was a sixth one? That's managed in occupancy. It is often overlooked. All right, so I don't want you to overlook it. For completed inspections, the cool thing about it is you can have a unique activity code for every inspection type, but people go, where the heck do I set that up? It's in occupancy, in settings, and it's under, guess where? Inspection types. And you'd never know it unless you notice your cursor change, but when you click into it, you can set a default activity code for that inspection type. So I don't want you to forget that. And then you get this. That's what I wanted. And so you have, now will you copy and paste this into an annual report? Maybe, but you can certainly get it formatted to the style of your annual report if you wish to tell the community how many hours you're spending. Maybe you don't want to get these, you know, 9s and 1s and single entries, but boy, 1,353 entries for a total of 501 hours in the month of January this year. Okay, again, this is a month. I wanted to get the report to run quickly, okay? But some of the high level stuff you might want to bring in, and it will capture training in addition to your training reports. All right, quick pause here because I see a question come in. All right, this is from Kristen. Historically, we have always had a 65+ page annual report. However, the amount of time and resources that went into the production did not match the lack of interest in such a long document. We have opted to switch to a colorful 6-page trifold summary instead. What are your thoughts on switching to something this truncated? Do you have any examples from agencies who do a much more abbreviated report? Great question, Kristen. So there's sometimes, and I've seen this, I don't have an example that I can share, but if Kristen is willing to send me hers, I will put it up on the screen. Kristen, my email is tom@emergencyreporting.com. If you want to send them both, great. If you just want to send the trifold, that's great too. So I want to address this, and we're going to get back on. Oh, she's still working on it. Okay. So we'll send it to me when it's done. I want to, and if it's okay with your chief, I'd like to share it with the wider audience. So what Kristen's saying, and this makes sense, you've got a comprehensive, in this case, 65-page annual report. Killer. I'm the kind of guy that wants to read that report. However, if I come visit a firehouse, or if I'm going to a safety talk, how cool is it to hand a 6-page trifold summary that they can walk away with and learn something about their department? And keep in mind, on a website, I may not want to read a 65-page document, but if I got a summary document of 6 pages, that at least gets me to at least maybe I'll just get whatever I need out of that, or it will pique my interest. And I would certainly hope there's a link from that trifold, say 6-page doc, to the full-on annual report. So if I want to learn more, I can go and learn more. All right, not unlike digesting news these days, you might see a headline and you read the blurb on the Apple News, for example, and then, oh no, I want to deep dive into this article, and now it's it's a pretty lengthy read. I think it's a great idea. I would love to see the end product on that, especially since everybody's so busy, and a big document can be overwhelming to someone who's not going to get into the weeds. So I personally think it's a great idea. Bo sent me Little Rock, so I'll pull that one up here before we wrap up. Bo, don't let me forget if we get near the end of the hour. All right, that's this report. Thanks, Kristen, for sharing that. The next one I want to go to is the one that you've all probably seen, and it's just that simple and good of a report, is 553. This report is your high-level breakdown by major incident types. A lot of the annual reports I showed you previously use this exact report as is. Please run fast. If not, I may go to the live account to run it. Okay, so that's running, and we'll let it do its thing nice and quickly. All right, that chart you can take as is. People are pretty happy with it. Major incident type, but then you could always have the weeds. Okay, you've got the forest, you got the trees. And again, you could break these out by type and put charts to them. It's really up to you. Next one. So I care, and I want to. We've got to change our jargon, right? Because accreditation, they're talking about what have you saved, not what was lost. But again, love this because I can show the performance of my organization. If we had a potential, we called it our potential report in my fire department. So 968 gives you fire losses. The good thing is for 100 series calls, these are required fields now. All right, so I can see, now this is on a per incident basis, all right, but you can see my totals. I mean, they've saved 90% practically, not quite, but pretty darn close, okay? That's a great story to tell. And maybe you just throw down the high level numbers. You may not break it down per incident. You might want to highlight this big one here, 10% loss on a, nearly a $500,000 structure or property. Pretty good. I like to hear these stories, all right? All right, next one. This one, so hang in there with me on this one. It looks complicated, but I'm going to explain it to you. And I see these in a lot of annual reports or on dashboards. And Bill Stockley's like, where's my dashboard right now? And they're coming, okay? But this is an incident count by weekday and hour for zone, for shift, for day rate. So see how it's like, oh, what a mouthful. 4 zone, filter by zone, filter by shift, filter by date range. Love it. All right, so let's look at this for Lower Merion. All right, this is 2009. Now this only goes back, this platform I'm on only takes me to about April, so there's certainly not their total call volume here, but I want you to see what this is telling me, okay? Hour of day, day of week. Blue is my peak hour, okay, throughout the week. So read it horizontally. So at 2 a.m., my peak day was on Tuesday with 4 calls. Okay. The red, you read down. What were the most calls I ran on what was the hour of the calls I ran most on a Tuesday? That was at 9 a.m., 16. All right, where's my peak volume? Total responses for the day, percent, and the percent for the week. That's going vertically down and then horizontally across, total per hour, and a breakdown of percentage gives me 100, 1100 calls here, 100%. And then you could take this into Excel and sort it and find and quickly see your peak. But I'm thinking right here, we're looking at about 11 a.m. is pretty high. Yep, that's their highest and busiest hour. Okay, it's for the typical reader, it's a lot, but it still tells a good story. And that's report 1420. I like this one because it lets me see at a glance. I'm kind of busy, 5 and 6 o'clock hour, throughout the week, and if I've got a lot of blues. Okay. Questions on that report? Okay, no other questions? Okay, good. All right, next up is some high-level reports. 1645. You probably run into this one. I'm going to run it for last year. Okay, but take a look at this, see what you think. While it's running, I'm going to open up Little Rocks. No updates, thank you very much. All right, we'll let that load. While that's loading, one other thing you've got to see is here in analytics. Again, this could be a cut and paste. And I want to show you this example. I was just up in Sun City, Arizona yesterday, and this is in Sun City. And they run a pretty tight ship up there. I want to show you an example of something that could be lifted directly from our system and plunked down right into an annual report. And theirs is a particularly good example. Oops. Thanks for your patience here, everybody, as we get everything loaded. Okay, check this out. All right, I want to share a couple of key things here that you need to know about our response analytics. Okay, so in their standard is first alarm, 12 minutes, 90% of the time. We have a nuance, some of you have discovered this, that every truck, if you put minimum people on scene, 4 per company, it even counts ambulances and chief's trucks. So what I teach people to do is just drop this to 1, just for this purpose. We're caring about times here. We can see how many people got on scene, and I can play with that in Excel, but what I want to show you is this. This tells a pretty great story. I rarely have seen a department, and again, we're not focusing so much on times, or on personnel, excuse me, we're focusing on times. All right, what you're seeing here is their first alarm needs to get there in 12 minutes in the Phoenix Valley. First alarm total, okay? Not first unit, first alarm, all units. To meet 90% compliance, they're almost there. If I drill down to 2018 for an annual report, I could take this chart, screenshot it, and bring it right into my annual report. This is fantastic. And it's looking at fire calls. Now, you could filter certain zones, certain stations, certain population densities, just code 3 calls. You've got filters here in analytics. The trick that trips everybody up and it screws up your compliance, and we know this, we acknowledge this, is that if you keep this at 4, because you say you have to respond with 4 people per company, it doesn't exclude the ambulances and chiefs. So drop it to 1, at least get your times and see your compliance from a time perspective. and then I can drill into, now I wouldn't for an annual report, drill into the days, okay, and then I can drill into the hours of the day, okay, but I saw this yesterday, I was like, this is pretty darn good. I've got a nice table for an annual report, and then all of the data is right here, and I can download that to Excel and work with it, okay? And that's in analytics. One more annual report. This is from my buddy Bo in Little Rock. Okay, another I can already tell, it's a very professional document. Right out of ER. Okay, and notice how it's okay to be chunky with your letters and your text and your graphics. All right, I want to digest this as a lay reader. I want to be able to get to the gist of it without having to read a bunch of paragraphs. Leave that for the chiefs, leave that for the analysts, leave that for admin. But again, the trends, other call types, fatalities directly from our system. All these are pulled from our system. They just visually changed it for Little Rock. All right. Bo, I appreciate you sharing that. I think the more examples we all can see, someone we've watched me go through some of these, and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. All right. And yep. Excellent. All right, we're going to go back here. Let's hope this baby's run. There it is, 1645. This is high level stuff, but again, one of those summaries that really help tell your story. I'm going to show you one that's not on the list here on overlapping calls. And a lot of agencies want to demonstrate this. Why? If I've got a lot of overlapping calls, the definition is that another call that goes out simultaneously or occurs at the same time another call is in progress. Okay, so they got a 31% overlapping. This can tell a story to help secure more manning, machines, and money. Chief John Erickson, retired Chief of the Army, that was his saying, okay? The 3 M's. Averages, now I know those of you going for accreditation, averages are frowned upon, and I understand that. It is part of this report, okay? So that's a high level that can help you dig deeper. Keyword search overlapping. There's 4 reports. I want to see for zone, for station even. Let's go zone because that's geographically based. So if I run this for zone, okay, it's going to show me and see where I'm really having a lot of, and the guys will know this, right? The troops are going to say, yeah, we're always running into station one's call. They're running so much traffic, we're backing them up all the time. Okay, so that's one. I'm going to I'll let that run and we'll go play in another one real quick here. All right, so 11:32, how much time? We're good on time, just as I planned. Count of occupancies inspected per occupancy type per inspection type. Again, high level. I may have to go to Sun City to pull this one. I'm not sure how much they're doing. Let's do that. Oh, that one loaded fast. Okay, so they've got theirs categorized by property use code, but you can see that they did complaint inspections, that many on those types of buildings. I'm going to show you another example of that same report. Right here, 11:32 is that one. Their prevention department here, Sun City, I'm giving them props. They do a heck of a job. All right, annual fire prevention inspection. These are their categories, or the, excuse me, inspection types and occupancy types, which makes sense. They're doing most of their annual prevention inspections in businesses. Okay, community risk reduction is huge now. This helps tell that story in, say, an annual report. And I 100% trust every bit of this data, knowing the fire marshal there. OVAP, guys, OVAP scores. So if you are using our vision product, I think they are. Let me just make sure. This will give you a breakdown per zone of the OVAP scores. Okay, then let me find a better one. I like to show you really great examples so you can see how this can tell your story. Again, we're now talking community risk reduction. Okay. They have done a bang-up job. This is Orange County, Florida, okay? Thousands of occupancies by their battalions, by the breakdown of OVAP scoring. And they've done probably 90% of their structures, right? This is a great story. They only have 13, oh wow, 19,686 occupancies with complete OVAP scores. Wow, 13 do not. Crazy. But this is, again, another great example. And I just want to let you all know I've been granted permission to share these. I'm not just randomly going into people's accounts and showing these. I've worked with these customers and I've always asked them, hey, this is so good. Can I share this with a wider audience? And invariably they say yes, but I do get permission first. Okay, almost done. 3 more to go, and then I'll cut you guys loose and you can get on with your days. We're just about perfect here. Okay, so this one, going back here, oh, we're gonna backpedal just for a second. I ran this one, overlapping calls. Okay, throughout this year, report 1122. Now again, will you put something like this directly into an annual report? No, but there's numbers here that you can put. Remember the visuals, the Little Rock, the Marine Corps, the example we gave you, this type of visual, it could be just the call out here, okay? It could be this. This is, I mean, for me, things like this tell a quick, beautiful story, okay? So overlapping, all right? Chief wants to get more money, more manpower, more machines. They got a 22% overlapping. Where are we getting that overlapping? You know, it's broken down by zone and by date here. Now I could just go by zone, okay? And don't forget when you're running these reports, so you know if someone asks you, where did you get this data from, what it's all about, the footer in every report should do that. Newer reports, and this isn't a super new one, but they did a good job writing it. We have a new standard internally where we make a much more comprehensive description here. So if someone asks you, well, what is this all about? If you don't know off the top of your head, you can read the bottom of the footer and be able to explain to anybody what this is, where this is pulling data from. Okay, now depending on whether or not you're using standards in your training module, so we're going to kick it into the training gear right now, and I may just have to go into my demo account for that one. I'll run it in Lower Merion too. I don't know if they're doing standards, but what I want to show you is this. So ISO comes down, they want to know how many hours you have for their different categories in the FSRS. Their document to when they come and audit you, okay? So this report gives you that. Key takeaway here is you got to be using standards, okay? And you can group your people by, like, for example, those of you that know ISO 580 .c, oops, not training codes, .e and D. I might have an existing driver teaching a new driver, but they each get credit under different ISO 580s, okay? So I want to just grab, I'm going to do all personnel, but I would group just my new drivers here. Okay, I want all training codes, but I want just the classes that had existing DO training. We'll go with existing. So what this will do, and I would have grouped just my existing driver operators here. Keep that in mind, okay? And I don't have one here for 2019. So shoot, let's see. Hopefully we got this one. Yowza. Okay. So what, try it in your account. If you get the same results, what this means probably is that under the settings, okay, you haven't set up standards. All right. And let's see if I can run it for all, so at least you can see what the visual looks like. Yes. Okay, so let's pretend this is 580.c only. It'll show you the training code category, the class name, the instructor, okay, and how many hours for that person, okay? And so you can add them all up and you've got the totals and be able to tell ISO, hey, we've met the required number of hours for this particular standard. I just wanted you to see the output here. Will this be you plunk right into annual report? No, but you can grab this and say, we have completed X number of hours towards the completion of ISO 580.E for existing DO training. And then I forget how many hours they require for that. I think it's 12. No, I don't know. I don't want to guess without actually looking at it, and I don't want to take the time to do it. But you can benchmark this against the standard and say, yeah, we exceeded it, or we're almost there. Okay. All right, 2 to go, and then we'll do questions. These are 2 brand new reports. Community risk reduction now. I'm going to shift gears, upshift into events. All right, this one, based on our new events, the new features within our events module. Again, we're thinking community risk reduction here. This will tell you how many car seats you've installed, number of attendees for fire extinguisher training, batteries installed. Now I did it for all event types. If I just wanted to break it down to one event category and one event type, say car seats, I could do that, and then the report would give me the totals there. New report, use your parameters to get the results you're looking for. I just want to see how many car seats did we install this year. It's going to give me that. All right, these are the event types, the orange, the salmon, and then the actual event itself, what took place. So Krista had one where she did batteries and car seats. Boy, that's pretty good. Last one. This is huge. This is my civilian report. How many civilians have I connected with this year? Okay, you can track children, adults, and seniors. All right, prevention efforts, community risk reduction efforts, you don't measure how quickly you put the fire out because you've prevented that fire. But how do you measure your program? Well, one metric is the number of civilian contacts, and that's becoming more and more important. And again, coming back full circle here, all of the reports that I showed you can mine data to help you tell your story in an annual report. And if there's that, I've got a list of more of them that's in your handouts. So take a look at those. And if you've got one that you like, that I didn't mention, that's not on that list, send it to me and I'll add it to it to share with our other customers. Any questions of what we covered today? I know there's got to be some. All right, looks like I got everything, Bo. Thank you for sharing Little Rocks. And Kristen, I look forward to getting both your 65-pager and your 6-page summary. And with that, we are just about at the top of the hour.